To-do lists are a collection of ideas and thoughts of things that we need to get done. They seem helpful at first glance, but it is only when we see how many of these incomplete lists that we actually have that we start to see the damage they reap. If we think of our to-do lists like magic items in games, we can actually start to see their capabilities and imagine what we can do with them. This is also where we find our first mistake. What if this journal in which I'm writing all my to-do lists in is actually a cursed item? What if every single to-do list is actually been detrimental to what I've been trying to achieve? Imagine that our to-do lists are actually a magic blade that we find in a dungeon. Its sharp edge gives us the confidence to know that any enemy we come across we can cut through like butter. Throughout these encounters, we feel on top of the world. This blade has given us the ability to survive and even thrive in these dungeons. But the thing about the cursed item is that even though we feel this way, the blade has actually been getting dull. Every single time we use it, it gets more and more dull until eventually it is no longer a blade. And thus is the plague of the cursed item. We don't realize how bad it is until it is too late. This item has left us obsessed and unable to look at it objectively. We can't see how it is dulled, how its shine is no more, and we still think that it is the sharpest blade that we can find. And then it becomes too late. By the time we come up against that next enemy and we're fighting with a dull piece of metal, that we only realize that, oh, I can't do this anymore. And that's the problem that exists with many to-do lists. So many of us think that they are the absolute solution to our problems. Do just write out what we need to do and then get it done. But that in itself is a cursed blade. We find a purpose in writing down the things that we need to do, and in doing that, we get the dopamine hit as if we have already achieved them. We go, oh, I want to achieve this, so therefore I'm going to write it down, and that little flood of dopamine to the brain makes you go, cool, I have been productive. But you haven't. You've just written down the thing that's in your brain. And then you start to realize, oh, I've written this thing here. And then I also have pages upon pages upon pages upon pages that could fill a novel with the amount of to-do lists of things that lay incomplete. Of things that I thought, I'm gonna do this, felt good about it, and then didn't actually do the thing. So we are left with a dull blade, wondering where the hell we went wrong. So for the rest of this video, I'm gonna walk you through a blueprint of different steps that I follow to make sure that my blade is always sharp, that I'm not stuck with one of these cursed blades, and actually have a to-do list or productivity system that works for me, not against me. An adventure is nothing without a destination. Somewhere that we can point our sword towards going, we are going there, and anything that is in our way will be cut down. The problem that many to-do lists have though, however, is that they don't really think about that. They just write everything that needs to get done right now, and by doing that, they don't have a direction. And if we're stuck looking at the volume of things that need to get done, we do not think about what the actual actions that will have the most impact going forward will be. If we're thinking about that enemy we're facing next, if it's a skeleton, a sword may not be the best option. It will go through the bones, it won't actually do any of the damage we think it's going to. So instead, we need to pick up a hammer. We need to pick up a hammer so we can smash these bones into the ground. Because picking the right weapon can make all of the difference when you're actually trying to make progress. A to-do list that just has all of these random tasks that need to get done doesn't have any sort of alignment of the journey you're trying to go on. So when looking at your to-do list, first figure out what that endpoint is going to be. So if we take a moment to look at the actual system that I created in Notion to turn my life into a video game, you see that one of the big aspects that I do is focus in on the quests. What are the quests that I'm working towards? So right now, if I look at the content for this channel, right now I have a quest called Destroy All Content, in which I have defined it as my main quest. I've defined it as that endpoint that I'm working towards and the results that then come of it. And this is the distinction. I have defined it as my main quest. See, I believe that there is two different types of quests in this world. There is the main quest and then there's side quests. The main quest itself is first defining what your problem is. If you know what your problems in life are, you can stop and go, okay, my main quest is solving that problem. See, because if we treat everything that needs to get done as important, then none of it is. Nothing is important if everything is. And this simple tag that says main here defines it as my important task. It makes me go, this is my first priority. Everything that is in regards to this journey right here is the priority for me today. So let's walk through how to actually do this step by step. So in trying to define what your main quest is, we'll jump over here and we'll actually break it down into a very simple aspect. The first thing you need to focus in on is your problems. Once you know your problems, you can start to define what are the biggest problems. See, in life, there are an unlimited amount of problems, like there's an unlimited amount of solutions. And the thing is, I'm sure that if you just sit down and think about it, you can probably define one big problem that will have multiple effects in your life. It might be that you don't have enough money, so you need to earn more. It might be that your health is not where it should be. It could even be simply trying to find some clarity in what to actually do with your life. Whatever it is, identify that problem. So let's say the problem is your health. Right now, you don't have the best health. That is the focus. Your main quest now is to solve that. Because once you solve that, it will have knock-on effects for a lot of other aspects of your life. Once you figure out that main quest, you can go, cool, here is my focus, and I know that by doing this and solving that problem, I will have a benefit to my life overall. And because once you have that North Star, you can actually start making progress towards the goals that you're trying to achieve and align the tasks you're doing to help achieve that goal. And so now that the actual direction is defined for us, we can start to look at the tasks we're trying to achieve. Usually from a to-do list, these tasks suffer from a lack of clarity of action. Going back to the cursed blade metaphor, if our edge has actually dulled and it's no longer sharp, we will be doing minimal, if any, damage at all. And the thing is, this sharpness only comes from clarity. It only comes from knowing exactly what you're going to do and how that's going to affect things. And this is where we define the binary state of a task. See, binary at its base form is a communication of whether something is 1 or 0, yes or no. And this is exactly how your task should be. It should have a clear state of whether or not it is able to be completed. And so in order to make sure that your tasks align with this, there is 2 rules. The first one being that you need to focus on efforts over results. See, because if you're focusing on results, you cannot control them. Yes, you can influence them, but you cannot control whether or not your actions will actually make that result the response. Let's say on your task list, you have the task of writing. You want to be writing more. Okay, great. So if you're focusing on your efforts, you actually, instead of writing, you need to write 1,000 words. See, by having this clear number right here, 1,000, and in particular, the action of writing 1,000 words, that is an efforts-based approach. You can define whether or not you have done that as a yes or no. You could write 999 words, and guess what? That's a big fat no, because you have not done 1,000. That is a clear, distinctive end line that you are working towards. And by having a clear, number-based efforts approach, you can clearly define where that line is. And to double down on this, you need to have a clear, definitive deadline. Quoting Parkinson's law, the work expands to fill the time allotted. So in this example, it's all good and well to write 1,000 words, but when is it due? Is it due today? This week? Like, when is it actually due? Because if you have a task, and yes, if there is a definitive line of I've completed it, well, when are you going to cross it? Because you could have had these 1,000 words done today already. But because there is no definitive, oh, it needs to be done today, it gets pushed off to tomorrow. It gets pushed off to next week. It gets pushed off to next year, next decade, next lifetime, whatever it is, but it doesn't get done. See, and these 2 clear distinctive rules of defining the numerical efforts-based approach and giving it a deadline have huge impact on you actually completing that task. Instead of the blunt sword swinging at the definitive enemy, it is instead now a clear precision of you are fighting this dragon, and in order to defeat it, you need to stab your sword in between these 2 scales where one of them is actually upside down so that you can make the definitive killing blow on this creature. And yes, the clarity can be very scary. It makes you sure that you need to do these exact actions in order to achieve it. So comparing between stabbing that individual spot between the 2 scales and fighting definitive enemies, yeah, one of them feels less ethereal, one of them feels more actionable. But that in itself is also terrifying because then you realize, oh, I'm going up against a dragon. But in itself, that is a clarifying aspect that gives you the power to make the changes. So when you're taking these mentalities, how do you then apply them to this cavalcade of tasks that you may have in your brain and need to get done? See, the classic response might be just writing everything that you need to get done in a certain order on a piece of paper and then go, cool, that's the order in which I do them. Having no effect of whether or not the actual tasks that you've ordered are in the right way and whether or not they're actually going to have the impact that you want them to, or if it's just you getting something done so that you don't feel like you are being useless. And there is a number of ways in which you can actually start to evaluate whether or not the tasks themselves are going to be the ones that are important to you. In fact, one of the more successful ways of doing this is by looking at the Eisenhower matrix. So the way that the Eisenhower matrix works is that there is 2 definitive values: whether or not a task is important and whether or not it is urgent. And then by looking at this, you can go, oh, okay, the important and urgent tasks are where I should be focusing my energy. And the ones that are not important and not urgent are going to exist over here. And once you have this, you can start aligning your tasks to, okay, well, let's do the important and urgent stuff first, then we'll do the important and not urgent stuff next, then we'll do the not important and urgent stuff after that, and then finally, we'll try and avoid doing any of the not important and not urgent stuff. See, because most people only ever exist in these 2 right here. They only focus in on what's urgent because it's right in front of them and it feels like a blaring alarm, and therefore it's in their head. They just need to get it done so it's no longer in their head. And this is where the problem I have with this Eisenhower matrix exists. If everything that is urgent is defining the importance to me, how do I define what is actually important? So this is where I define a different strategy to Eisenhower. The thing that I do when I'm looking at my system is that I first define an impact. what is the impact of this task? This value here is a number from 1 to 5, and it's not definitive of whether or not it is going to be the hardest or whether or not it's going to be the quickest to be done or what any of those sort of values. What it is looking at it objectively and going, if I complete this task, how much further towards the end of my goal will I be? If it is a 5, then it's moving me so much further towards that goal. If it is a 1, then maybe it doesn't need to be done at all. If I take an example of recording a video, right now the recording of this video is probably super important to me making the content that gets posted. So when it comes to recording these videos, I always like to indicate them as a 4. It is a huge impact on the actual progress of getting this content out. That said, if the task itself was simply to just watch a couple videos to be inspired for an idea that I could then do something, it's going to be a 1 because it feels more like a waste of time than it is actually moving me towards the goal I'm trying to achieve. Yes, it might have a small impact, hence why it's still a 1 and not a 0, but it is one of those things that it is so low value that really I should be focusing in more on what is actually going to be impacting the end result more. See, and this pivot from importance to impact has been one of the most amazing changes I've made when trying to figure out what needs to get done next. Because so often I was doing busy work, thinking that it was important, and to me it felt like it was important, but it was that feeling that was stopping the progress that I actually wanted to make because I wasn't focusing on the impactful choices. So you can go through and start analyzing each of your tasks to figure out whether or not they are going to be the most impactful choice, ordering them as such, going, okay, let's do all the 5s first, then all the 4s, then all the 3s. But then we do hit another hurdle, and that is the figuring out of which one you need to do first. So if I go back to the actual content page here, load that up, you'll see that I have a structure of tasks that need to be done. So this is part of the video thing. There are tasks in here that actually have already been done, so they're no longer there. But the idea being that if I want to record all of this, I need to first have a script written. And if I have a script written, well, I need to first do the outline. I need to first do what is actually the topic of the video going to be, choosing that from the selection of these. There is an ordering of things that need to get done in a certain way so that I can do those higher impact tasks. Because yes, it would be all good and well to edit a video and just post it, but in order to edit it, I need to record. And then in order to record, I need to have a script. And then in order to have a script, I need to actually outline. And then in order to and that ordering of things becomes so important. In gaming terms, this is the combo that I'm working towards. Yes, that impact level 5 is the final hit that's going to take him from 99 health down to 0. But the thing is, there's a combo that leads up to that. There's a few different moves that need to be done so that combo can kick off and that actual move can be available. And these combos are key to making sure that you do make the progress towards that impact and get that progress towards your overall goal. So sitting down and going, okay, here's what I want to do. What do I need to do in order to do that thing? Is such an important step that many of us just don't even think about. We go, oh yeah, well, I just need to go for a run. Well, instead of just going for a run, put on your running shoes. Oh, you don't have running shoes? Okay, go to the shops, buy some running shoes. Oh, you don't know what to buy? Do a quick Google search on what people recommend. And that sequencing of things gives you the next available task that you should be doing in order to achieve that large impact. So taking these into account, I actually have a sequencing here that allows me to know, let's move it over a little bit so you can see, actually which one needs to get done in which order. It's the same order as it's written up here, just a little bit more messy. But this back end thing allows my brain to not have to think about it. I do it once and it goes, okay, cool, here is what you need to do. And by having a system that allows me to go, oh, I don't need to think about it, I can only focus in on the first thing, well, then I have a system that is actually serving me. When you have a system like that that actually works, I can just load up my main interface here, and you can see that there is a single task that needs to be done right now. I have a single task that's in front of me that is recording the A-roll, which is what I'm doing right now. I have all these other tasks that need to get done, but right now it is only feeding me the one thing I need to do right now to make the most impact. And if something like that interests you, then this is the Real Life RPG. It's a system I made because my brain works in a certain way, and I found that living life like a video game is something that triggers those dopamine receptors for myself. I ended up turning it into a product that you guys can also grab. There's a link in the description below where you can learn more about it. There's a whole video that breaks down the system. But if nothing else, find a system that works for you. It may be this one, it might be something you want to build for yourself, but having a system that is more than just a to-do list that helps structure and align the tasks that you need to get done in a way that is going to allow the most impact and also motivate you to actually get them done. In this system, I have it so when I click off a task, it gives me experience. I can level up and my little character there gets better and better and better. It gets different stats, it gets gold, whatever it is. Have that carrot at the end. Sometimes you need the stick. That's why there's a boss battle in here, so if I don't do my tasks, I get damaged. But having a system that is more than just, oh, here are all the things that need to get done. It's a game. It gives you something to feed on. It gives you something that makes you go, I need to do this so I can continue my journey towards whatever I'm working towards. And again, if that sounds like of interest to you, there is a link in the description that goes through this whole system here, shows you the breakdown of it all and whether or not it is actually for you. But regardless on whether or not you have your own system, you use this one, whatever it is, try next time you're looking at actually putting down all these things on a to-do list to see if you can order them, to see if you can figure out that end result, to then break it down via a binary task system to see what the end result actually is when it is due, and then try and figure out the impact of the task so you can focus on the most impactful ones and then the ordering that needs to be done in order for you to achieve those things. And most importantly, the next time you think that you have a weapon that is doing all of the impact you need it to, just take a moment and ask, is it a cursed weapon? And question whether or not it is actually better for you to put that weapon down now and pick up a new one that is better suited towards the enemies and journey that you want to go on.